Daniel Eric Henry, student ID 1427385. GAM-603 25-minute video presentation. How my game was designed and developed, and the development process. Pre-production. This is where the project began. I defined the general concept of the game and why I decided to explore this side of game development, and the key aspects that were going to be needed to develop human circuit racers. The game is about 6 individuals that come from a fictional town called Whoville. Every year in this town there is a racing tournament where many compete. This year these 6 individuals will be competing in this tournament of riches. I've identified my target audience and tailored the game towards them. My audience is boys. 73% are most likely or most commonly to visit online gaming websites than girls, 27%. Using these statistics, I will be using gender distribution statistics to market my game towards boys. I'm very positive that I think there is a market for human circuit racers. Human circuit racers has a unique playing style in its gameplay. It's an old classic revamped and revitalized. The main competition on the market now would be the Super Mario Kart series. Human Circuit Racers was designed and developed to be published for all major platforms: Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo Switch and PC. The game will be sold on the itch.io store for $11.99. Will be using the itch.io publishing platform. This will keep publishing costs down as itch take 10% commission from each developer's game sales. While retailing my game for $11.99 on the itch.io store, they will take 1.199 commission on each game sale. The revenue generated, over 90% of it will go back to me, the game developer. The project scope has been bigger than anticipated for an indie game concept developed in Unity 3D of an old game with new twists, with new gameplay mechanics. The size, scope and complexity of this project will take about 1 year of game development to sell on the itch.io store. Production, 1 year. Schedule and milestones: first vertical slice and playable build, 1 month. Costing nothing, plus time spent on development. Staffing, 1 to 2 people. Production. Considering that I only have 10 weeks to finish development, this game would initially take 1 year to complete. Prototype. This was the first initial test of my idea. For my general idea to make it past the stage, I produced a very good GDD game design document to accompany the prototype. First playable. The first playable gave me a better overall and rounded idea of the look and feel of gameplay. Vertical slice. After producing a fully playable sample and could get first-hand experience of what the game and gameplay were going to be like at this stage of development, I was happy with my choice of game design idea. Project overview. I never designed or developed a racing game before. I didn't know how difficult or how long it was going to take me, so I wanted to try to develop a racing game in Unity 3D. The game concept was called Human Circuit Racers, an ode to the Super Mario Kart series. The game would be an on-foot 3D track racing game developed in Unity. I initially designed the game to be an online multiplayer racing game set in a fictional town called Whoville. The game will feature 6 playable characters to choose from in a multiplayer battle tournament. If I was going to develop a racing game, I wanted to keep its mechanics and ideas original. A new IP. So I have done some research into the Super Mario Kart series and the other racing games on the market, and through my research I've refined their ideas about building the tracks and some of the weapons, and implemented some fresh new ideas that would feature in my game. The first steps I used to develop Human Circuit Racers. Step 1. I thought of a new game concept that I wanted to make. I started small and explored different genres. I researched and explored what was popular on the market now. I then began to list and build video game ideas in Miro. I wanted to explore different concepts within my game development process. I thought about the different processes and mechanics that would need to go into making my game concept. Step 2. I gathered my information and research material and started to build my GDD, game design document. I listed all the key aspects that would be present in my game, from the game's mechanic, genre, target platforms and story. I designed my GDD game design document so that no question was left unanswered in its audience's mind. It answers any questions that any potential investor may need to see. Step 3. After doing the research, I started building my game concept in Unity 3D. In week 1 of GAM-603, Alex gave a lecture on introduction to player types. You have 4 main player types: the killer, the socialist, the explorer, and the archivist. I chose 2 of these attributes to use in my game concept, the killer and the socialist, as I thought these 2 attributes would best fit a circuit-based racing game. Step 4. I refined my concept. Some elements that needed to go through the design and development process didn't make it to the design phase, as they would have harmed the user experience. Step 5. At every possible stage of development, my game concept was playtested. Some bugs do remain. This is true of the C# scripts that were written in Unity. Rationale behind my design. In the rationale behind my design, I wanted to combine crucial elements that conveyed what the designer wanted from my game concept. I focused on crucial gameplay elements to bring game design ideas to life in early prototyping. I tried to remove unnecessary game mechanics that weren't crucial to the game design process. In the process of elimination of ideas, these objectives were made clear in prototyping phase through my GDD game design document. I wanted to make the gameplay suitable for broad audience by making the game's learning and difficulty curves easier for the player to get to grips with. I wanted the game to have balanced experience throughout its gameplay as the players progress from level to level. Their skill level will increase and the races they compete in will increase in difficulty gradually. I wanted to incorporate the flow mechanic into my game design and challenge the player to constantly into my game design by challenging the player constantly. The challenge was to make the player stay in the zone when playing human circuit races by constantly challenging their skill level with the flow principle. As an indie game developer, I wanted to keep the game concept simple and innovative, but out of the simplicity, I wanted to tweak its gameplay mechanics, making it fun to play. This, in a sense, will give the game player their hook to continue playing the game. I got the idea for my concept after doing some research into track racing games like the Super Mario Kart series and other racing games on the market. After playing these games, I would refine my ideas and see what could be improved in these games, as well as implement new ideas into the game development process. I got the idea to remove the cart or the racing cart, place the players on foot. I thought that this would be more engaging gameplay element to the game. I looked at the age and target audience of these games and found that the games are marketed to children. My game has a higher age rating of 18 to 30 as it is marketed towards a mature audience. I didn't want a straight copy or clone of these research racing games. I wanted something new that built upon them. I tried to make the game appeal to the socialist player type as much as possible, as this was my goal from the very beginning. I decided to make the game appeal to the socialist player back in week 1 after receiving a lecture from Alex Zacharias, my lecturer, on introduction to player types. I wanted to implement this behaviorism into my concept design after hearing it. I wanted my game world to be fun, engaging, and for the player to play through. The 5 main elements of game design that I utilised were conflict. I made the game tracks and the conflict between the players challenging, with the players pitted against one another and implementing hazards on a racetrack. This would present the player with a dynamic obstacle racing while racing, and break up the fun element between just racing and gameplay, racing in gameplay and creating excitement for the players. Strategy and chance. Giving control of the player and letting them choose how and what elements to upgrade at the end of the level promotes decision making for the player that will affect gameplay and the game balance between player strengths and weaknesses. Aesthetics. As aesthetics are very important to a game, Human Circuit Racers will have bright, colourful gameplay aesthetics to it. Theme and story. The game is set in a fictional town called Whoville, with 6 main playable characters residing there. The theme can be conveyed with the aesthetics of the game design, leaning toward a beautiful, lush, summery town. I have included a backstory for all the playable characters in the GDD game design document. I have kept the story simple, but I have made sure to incorporate the gameplay elements and its elements into the story. Rewards. Players earn points or bonuses through in-game tasks for leveling up their characters at the end of each race. The player can add extra health, speed boost, or have weapons deal more damage. Tasks and hurdles faced. Some of the problems that I faced when making Human Circuit Racers was balancing the story. Combined with the game design elements, I wanted the story to come through in the gameplay. I wanted the player to know that the story was an integral part of the gameplay, so I accomplished this by taking key features from the GDD game design document and incorporating them into the game design and development phase of the gameplay. Coming up with the concept of Human Circuit Racers was hurdle, but a task that I passionately wanted to pursue. This is a genre that I have never conceptualized, designed, or developed before, and within Unity. So after playing the Super Mario Kart series, I wanted to take up the challenge of designing and developing a circuit racing game. Balancing gameplay elements such as the fun factor and gameplay was a challenge, and it required a lot of playability testing to achieve the right results. This was true of balancing the speed of the player in the conceptual phase. If the player was too fast, they would complete the course too quickly. So I designed the course to have obstacles to challenge slow the player down, something to make them stop and think before they acted. I wanted to design a fun and exciting environment as a behaviorism for my socialist player type, so I implemented a lot of competitive and challenging elements into the race course as well as the gameplay. In early development, I faced a hurdle with the C# script for the player's movement. I used the WASD key to move the player left, back and right, player forwards, left, back and right, but this combined with the players moving in the opposite direction of each of the assigned keys. I struggled with this and could not figure out why the assigned keys for the player's movement were not working correctly. This resulted in the player movement script being revised many times to achieve the desired result. After having trouble with the player movement script, I started a whole new scene and project in Unity. After accidentally deleting the main camera from the hierarchy in Unity, I was not able to get it back, so I started a new project. I've implemented a new C# script for the player's movement in my new project, and it works fine. The player now turns the camera when the mouse is used to move, and when the arrow keys are pressed, the player moves in the desired direction. After the trouble with the player movement script, the main camera, it caused a setback in development, as I had to scrap 4 weeks of work and start from the very beginning. After overcoming this hurdle, I started to make progress in my game concept design and development. At this point, I could finally start designing and greyboxing out the first stage of Human Circuit Racers. As a gameplay genre and mechanical elements, I didn't just want to stick to one, so I added an RPG role-playing game start element into my gameplay. I use the player statistics and reward system to reward the player with bonuses for completing specific tasks in the game. With these bonuses, the player will be able to level up their character at the end of each level. This process would enable you to build a character player statistics and give them key attributes, giving the game replayability value and a hook for the player to continue playing the game. The game system is where I think I will be most challenged when designing my game. The game system, or what I will be relying on to get the right gameplay mechanic, is the circuit battling system combined with general gameplay. This needs to be fluid, dynamic, and work seamlessly with the player input for gameplay to be successfully achieved. I'm going to play tests and get feedback on each of the levels designed through playability testing. In week 4, I was having trouble with the C# movement script for the player. I decided to restart the whole Unity scene and development from scratch and implement a new player movement script for the player. I deleted all the C# scripts in the first iteration of my development as they were non-functional. I'll be restarting the whole development scene from the beginning after I restarted the whole Unity project from the start. It took me quite a while to implement all the features that were in it before. Research undertaken. In week 3, Alex gave a lecture on ethics in video games. This made me reflect upon my game concept and think, is there anything ethically, morally wrong with my game? Something as such as video games can have a life-changing effect on a person's psyche and moral standing. Video games have come a long way since days of Atari 2600 or the days of the 8-bit NES Nintendo Entertainment System or the 8-bit Sega Master System. Video games have been seeing an exponential jump in graphics since 1977. Now with consoles being able to support hyper-realistic graphics and sound in 2022. So ethically, can a video game make you violent? Yes, it can. With games like Mortal Kombat and Doom, these games and games like these have been receiving a higher age rating for their depictions of violence and gore on the screen. I did further research into the Super Mario Kart series of games when I was greyboxing in week 4. I watched some on YouTube videos and played the game on Nintendo 64 to get a better understanding of how the game was constructed and put together. This in turn gave me ideas for the concepts that I wanted to bring forward in the game. I like the puddles of water on the ground that the player drives through that slow the player down, or the tunnels that the player drives through in the game. I've implemented some of these features into my game concept and plan to do further research into the game to get more ideas. I've researched many karting games online and on YouTube, but the most predominant and up-to-date one seems to be a Mario Kart series. So I'll be basing most of my game design processes on it, but I will be taking ideas from all the games and refining new gameplay ideas and concepts out of them. To find out more about behaviorism in games, Alex asked me to research this topic in more detail in my free time. I'll be formulating more research into the Skinner box and behavior in video games in general, and try to implement these findings into my game design concept. I will be revisiting the Student Canvas webpage to formulate further research into the topic of behaviorism in games. Alex gave a lecture in week 4 about gamification. I learned about adding game mechanics into non-game environments, even though I'm developing a video game and I've done some additional research into the topic. I still wanted to add gamification elements to human circuit races, and I somehow want to implement this feature into game concepts. I'm thinking about implementing a gamification learning system into my game concept, human circuit races. I still want to implement some kind of concept with the Skinner box that utilizes loot boxes in my game design process. After doing further research into the Skinner box, I've decided to implement loot boxes into my game. These will be achievable after completing certain tasks in the game, and will be awards at the end of the level in the form of bonuses or awards for the player to achieve. I continued my research into track racing games, I found out much of these games follow the same formula, but they have slight alterations to their design. If I wanted human circuit races to stand out from the crowd, it needed to be a racing game with fresh new ideas.